Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for this Monday edition of Wave Extra here in the Wave Now studio, August 25th. Appreciate you joining us. If you're new to the proceedings here inside the studio, I'm Jose Sosaya, normally also here holding things down for Wave News at 11. But here we are kind of unwinding to start this very beginning of the work week and unpacking, going through some of the day's biggest stories, perhaps offering a little more context as well to some of these conversations. And we're going to do just that. If you're just joining us, whether that's on the Wave Now app or on the multiple ways you could stream us, connecting with us on our social media channels. Always appreciate that when you do in your busy day and wherever you're tuning in to watch us on your TVs or your smart devices. But for you folks who do have to commute and perhaps use those very vital interstates, highways, big roads to move around our community, maybe you've already noticed some of those warning signs, just some of the cautionary signs, letting you know there's going to be those roadblocks and some blasting that's going to start tomorrow. This has to do with the big project happening along the Watterson Expressway around Brownsboro Road. Crews still need to keep making that progress on a $130 million project. And of course, KYTC says the ultimate goal is to make things safer, make moving better, and support future growth along the Watterson and Brownsboro. So KYTC letting us know that the blasting itself is due to start tomorrow in earnest. What I want to play you first was a video that we found from their Facebook account, sort of doing a very basic walkthrough of where this is going to happen, what it's going to look like, and the window of hours any given day where they're going to be doing this quite extensive blasting work just to clear the road itself. So I want to play that video we were able to find here.
You've probably seen the progress on the Interstate 264 widening and improvement project near US 42, also known as Brownsboro Road. To create space for the wider interstate, blasting operations are starting this week on I-264 near the I-71 interchange. During blasting operations, drivers can expect short rolling roadblocks. These may last up to 20 minutes and will occur once a day between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. This widening project is a major investment in the long-term future of this region, and we appreciate the community's support as we work to make travel safer and more efficient for the long haul. Stay informed on project updates and traffic impacts by signing up for email or text alerts.
So that's certainly an account we at Wave News are going to be following and checking in, of course, with the team in charge about the timeline for the project. But again, just as a reminder that rolling roadblock happening, ideally, they say around once a day, the window from 9 in the morning to 3 p.m. And of course, at 9, some of you folks out there driving into work might still be making that commute. So just something to keep in mind as part of factoring in that time you might need to get where you need to go. So once a day could last anywhere up to 20 minutes. Of course, you know, all these things happening to prepare as best as you can. And they say, you know, it's going to require so much, planning, logistics, and people adjusting their regular routines and schedules. To that end, you know, this is a story where we've gone out to this particular section of where the crossroads is in our community, Brownsboro and Watterson. And there are a lot of, homes pretty close by, a lot of local shops, and they understand sort of there's been the stages to get ready for the really large-scale work. And you can understand that there's some frustration over the detours that they've had to set up and figure out to kind of go about the work they normally do, the shops they normally like to go to. So what we're going to play for you here is just part of our conversations today, our Wave News reporting team stopping by where the project is going to happen, and two workers at businesses. One's going to be a tool shop right around Brownsboro and a tailor's store, and just we asked for their perspectives about how they're asking, not just themselves but customers who normally like to come, how they're going to adapt and try to keep the business open while the blasting work itself is going on. So I wanted to play a little bit of that tonight for you.
Joe Lilly, Lilly, just Brownsboro Hardware and Paint. I'm a clerk basically. We all do everything.
So you were telling me off camera, even though the blasting is supposed to start between today and tomorrow, the construction has been going on for a hot second now, and you were telling me that you've certainly been affected in some way. Tell me about that.
Sure, we've been affected, like during rush hours, if it's hard to get here, but we've got very loyal customers, and we've been trying to educate people that there are other ways to get here. They don't have to get stuck in traffic. If they take alternate routes, like Westport or 42 come into Hubbard's Lane through Rudy Lane, they're right in our parking lot and they avoid it all. So we continue to tell them that on social media and email and just to kind of reiterate. And of course, we've got signage in the store saying there are easy ways to stay away from the construction.
Tell me a little bit about the signage that you have here and some of the ways that you're educating your customers.
Sure. I mean, we've created this sign, which basically shows the alternate routes along with explaining how we get there. Because if you come in Westport Road, you can take Hubbard's to Rudy, you're here. If you come in down Brownsboro Road, you can take 42 to Hubbard's to Rudy to here. And then if you're on the west side, then you can go down her lane to Westport. So really, those three areas are just make it so much easier for a customer to get here. And I think they appreciate that fact that we're helping them stay out of the construction.
For how long have you guys been in business in this area?
65 years.
65 years.
65 years.
I'm sure you've seen a little bit of everything. How does this construction compare to other things? Has it been an inconvenience? Tell me about that.
Well, you know, it's an inconvenience. However, it's got to be done. And so we think things will be so much better once it's over. Obviously, we'd like it to be finished today, but we think they're doing the best they can.
What is something that you would tell customers, to not let the construction, discourage them from coming here and supporting the business and getting what they need?
Well, I think it's important because every store in this shopping center are small neighborhood centers, small neighborhood shopping areas, and we all need their support. And so if we can find ways to make that easier, if the restaurants, the craft shops, the florists, all of these people, if we can work together and show people there's an easier way to get here and avoid the construction, we really do need their support during this time.
Is there anything that you wanted to ask? Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you think it's important, or if you think we covered everything?
No, I think we covered everything. And you mentioned the blasting that would be going on. We've been pretty comfortable with what they've told us. They've come in, explained what they're going to do. They've taken every precaution, we believe, and so we don't anticipate any problems with it.
Worried about anything coming through the roof?
Well, 2 years ago maybe, when they did, because there was an issue several years ago, but I think they've covered that now. And the way they've come in, they've taken pictures to document our store, and I think others, like just to make sure there's no problems. They've really been on top of that.
My name's Dylan, pronounced Dylan, last name Laquani.
How do you spell your name?
Dillon.
And your last name?
Lakhwani. It's my family's business, so.
Tell me a little bit about the business, the name, and then for how long have you guys been here? Tell me a little bit about that.
So our name's British Custom Tailors. We've been here for 55 years, serving this community. We've been here in this location for 55 years, going on 56 in January. We make clothing, we alter clothing, and it's a family business, so I'm the third generation here, and we take a lot of pride in the craft of making clothes, especially suits.
Yeah, no, it's an important job. Someone has to do it. I know we were talking off camera. There's all this construction going on across the street,
Right.
which can be very inconvenient for business owners, and because people a lot of times just want to avoid construction and traffic and all that. You said, to what extent have you guys been impacted, if in any way? Have you noticed kind of like a decrease in traffic? Tell me a bit about that.
So for us, we're super blessed because you kind of need our services or don't, so if you need our services, you got to come here. For traffic, I've seen it make appointments late, because they're waiting in traffic, and I hear it from our customers all the time. I come in before the traffic and leave well after the traffic, so it doesn't affect me personally, but I hear from our customers all the time that it's a lot of traffic out there, and sometimes they don't have the time to come through the shop because of the traffic, but all in all, we're still really busy all the time, but I do hear of how big of an inconvenience it is for our customers. And I just tell everybody just to take Westport Road and go back down Rudy Lane, and it's one of the best things that's what I do every day, and I change my driving habits because of it. But no blasting over here, nothing really affecting the shop, just the convenience of getting here in time.
And I know we were talking to someone else at one of the other stores, all of these are kind of like small, locally owned businesses.
Right.
How important is it for people, to still show up, support these businesses, even if it maybe takes you a little bit longer to get here, but, that importance of, hey, don't forget about the small businesses.
Yeah, it's very important, definitely. I mean, I know it's an inconvenience, but if you plan your trip accordingly or plan your time of day, it's not always traffic. So if you plan your trip accordingly or plan your time of day nicely, then you could avoid it at all costs, So that's what I tell everybody. But it's very important, yeah. I mean, especially for a lot of these businesses and more that are just like, a lot of these businesses, like, you don't need them, so you don't think about them, like for us, like you kind of need to do something, but like for food, there's so many alternative options, so like, it's very important if you like the store and you want to support the store, like there's only so long that they can go on without having customers or, and I know that it affects a lot of people, so.
So there you heard, and our thanks to our photography team, and you heard our reporter's voice, Fernando Garcia Francescini there. So Fernando talking to two neighbors and their each differing perspectives on the impact that the traffic has had around Watterson and Brownsboro, but also stressing the point perhaps for people not to sort of forego coming to use their services to try and get around the traffic. But you can see it's an evolving story. We'll certainly be keeping tabs on. By the way, the timeline as it stands for this improvement project to widen where Watterson and Brownsboro are expected to be done by the fall of 2027. And so as the following months arrive and come by, we'll certainly be keeping our eyes on how that progress is going, and hopefully, once it's all said and done, it has that benefit for us in the community. So, by the way, the list of closures when it comes to driving for you commuters around Louisville, that is still happening in other parts of the city, in particular in downtown, because new this week, we're going to be noticing some closures near South Floyd Street. And we're going to show you some of the signs indicating where it's all going to be. Maybe you've seen this one on your drives around downtown. So work started today on the area that's beneath the I-65 bridge. Crews say they're repairing and replacing parts of the off-ramp bridge that's at exit 136C. Because of this, though, the bridge is going to be reduced to one lane. South Floyd is also going to be closed between East Jefferson and Liberty Streets. In this case, we are told the construction is expected to last through December. So, for the sake of however many road, traffic, repair, and construction projects are happening, just something to keep in mind. And whatever happens, if there are any changes, we'll make sure to send that to your smartphones and to the website as push alerts and updates for you all to keep in mind. Moving on to some more stories, and of course we get breaking news that happens over the course of the day and the afternoon. Want to get you the latest that we're aware of, and we now have a new development in a case, a trial that for those of you who've joined us here on Wave Extra has been quite an extensive, in-depth story when it comes to the trial, the convictions of the men who were brought before a court and a jury in the Crystal Rogers case. And so now we've learned the lead detective in the case, he's been ordered to come to the sentencing of the last two men waiting to receive their formal sentence. And when we say that, he's been ordered, so basically he received the subpoena to be there the date that both Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson are to be given each their respective sentence. Now, what we're showing you a reminder is our artist sketches from inside the courtroom, because we weren't allowed to have those physical cameras get those images. So we had an artist offer her renderings as best we could, or she could in that case. The face you saw earlier, and I'm going to scrub a little bit back so you could see perhaps this particular drawing. And so this is a representation of Detective John Snow on the stand. So we learned he was delivered these subpoenas to be at sentencing Thursday. Detective Snow was leading the investigation into Crystal Rogers when she disappeared before Snow retired from the Nelson County Sheriff's Office. This was back in 2019. Snow actually took the stand in both Houck and Lawson's trial, detailing as much of the testimony and the investigation findings as he could. If you're familiar, it wasn't that long ago in July that both Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson were convicted. Houck recommended that sentence to life in prison. Recommendation for Joseph Lawson to be 25 years. We know that Lawson's father, Steve, received that 17-year sentence already formally in his particular case. And now moving on to another story. This was having to do with another trial that is pending. It was pushed back, though, today. This is a case for two men charged in a deadly shooting at a Highlands bar. So I want to take you inside this separate courtroom right now. The trial was supposed to start today, but apparently there's newly submitted evidence. So the judge decided that date for the official trial should be moved. Marquise Ward charged with murder and robbery. Dante Smith charged with robbery and assault. This has to do with the death of Theodore Brown Jr. The shooting happened inside Cafe 360 on Bardstown Road in March of last year. The trial will now start on November 12th. Ward's bond was reduced to $15,000 with home incarceration if posted. All right, coming back here to the studio here. Okay, here we are at 8:20. We do have much more to break down for you as we unpack and unwind our Monday. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back with much more that we've been able to, find and look into and share with you as far as those stories. So I hope you stick around after a small break here on Wave Extra. All right, everyone, 8:23, welcome back to tonight's Wave Extra. A heads up, since we just got this sort of breaking update, it's happening out in the city of Eminence, Kentucky. So maybe you're watching us right now from where you're at home in Eminence, or somebody you know, friends, family around that part. Apparently there's a water main break, and this is an update from the authorities. And as I'm reading this, it's saying all customers supplied by the city of Eminence's waterworks right now are on a boil water advisory until further notice. They tell us crews are out there trying to repair the break at this time. They apologize for any inconveniences, and they will notify all customers when the advisory has been lifted. So again, a boil water advisory if you drink water, use this water in the city of Eminence, Kentucky, and that network. So as anything pops up on our radar for updates, letting us know that the boil water advisory is done or the break is fixed, something we'll certainly update you on throughout the evening if we do get word of that. All right, moving on to one of our other bigger stories of the day, and this has to do with a report that we came across, and it revealed So equine fatalities, in other words, horse deaths in horse racing jumped more than 50% in the second quarter compared to last year. This is apparently coming from the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, or HISA is their acronym. I guess the experts, the investigators here, inspectors, calling it a surprising problem seen at tracks across the country. But also, according to the numbers, the problem is hitting home here for Churchill Downs as well. So this is part of the work and the reporting our David Mattingly has spent his day and afternoon on. It's an unexpected reversal and a trend toward safety. At least, we've followed up on how Churchill Downs has tried to implement or talk about those policies for sure. But again, this is the tracking of the data coming from HISA's latest report. The quarter of April, May, and June brought a surprisingly high number of horse deaths, especially though to Churchill Downs. And this is David's report today.
In all of 2024 at Churchill Downs, 6 horses died of racing-related injuries. Just halfway through 2025, already 7 have died. Compared to the same quarter last year, the rate of horses dying from race-related injuries at the track has more than tripled.
I can't really comment on Churchill Downs because we really haven't been able to get close enough to their issues to try to understand the origin, just given the fact that they're really not communicating with us currently.
Lisa Lazarus is the CEO of the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. The organization's second quarter report detailed a 50% jump in the rate of fatalities among its 41-member tracks across 19 states. And Churchill Downs was a standout in the wrong way trend. A quote from the report read, "Racing-related fatalities at Churchill Downs have increased notably from 0.58 per 1,000 starts in the second quarter of 2024 to 2.06 in the same period this year."
This year, they've taken, a very confrontational position with HISA around finances and money, and that's really hurt our cooperation and our relationship.
The new numbers come at a time of strained relations between HISA and Churchill Downs. In December, Churchill Downs sued HISA in federal court, alleging millions of dollars in illegally imposed fees by HISA and budget and fiscal mismanagement. In July, Lazarus described a lack of cooperation from Churchill Downs.
They're less willing to work with us, less receptive to our communications. They've rejected some of the suggestions and initiatives that we've proposed.
Churchill Downs responded saying, Churchill Downs remains fully compliant with all HISA safety protocols. Any insinuation to the contrary is both misleading and irresponsible. Our legal action is rooted in HISA's blatant failure to comply with federal law.
So that was our David Mattingly's report this afternoon. Now, that lawsuit is still pending. HISA says it's moving to have it dismissed and is rejecting those claims of mismanagement as alleged by Churchill Downs. So certainly something to keep track of, as you always hear us discuss here on Wave Extra, that the story in itself is not quite over, to see what comes of any ruling regarding that lawsuit in that front. Okay, talking now sort of a national subject of conversation, and then bringing it to Indiana and sort of some of the reaction that's come after discussions from the White House. In this case, President Trump has talked about sending the National Guard to Indiana as the Hoosier state says it's dealing with ICE and its plans for enforcement. Right now, plans are still in the works to use Camp Atterbury to hold any detained immigrants. Indiana announced these plans last month. What I'm going to take you, though, is to a protest we have this footage of. But plans last month indicating that any detainees would be held at the facility under a plan that the Defense Department rolled out. What you're seeing here is around several hundred people in Johnson County Park, though, rallying against the plans earlier today.
If we allow one group to be segregated and not get their legal rights, then any of us can be attacked. So it is, we either hang together or we hang separately.
So right now, it's not exactly clear when Camp Atterbury plans will happen. So as far as lawmakers against this are concerned, they wanted to rally as many people as possible. But in the same token, reaching out to offices of state Republicans like Representative Jefferson Shreve and Attorney General Todd Rokita, saying that they do support the decision for Camp Atterbury to host and house those detainees. Here, moving on to another update. This was an update from Bloomington. An 18-year-old woman arrested for shooting someone in the leg on Indiana University's campus. This happened, obviously, Saturday, August 23rd, early in the morning, around 3 a.m. Campus police saying the person who was shot got to the hospital, that was taken to the hospital, should be okay. Police say the suspect initially drove away from the shooting, but she was eventually arrested. They called it, police said, an isolated domestic incident, so this wasn't necessarily a threat to students at the university. The suspect's name has not been released just yet, but she is charged with aggravated battery and criminal recklessness. And now moving on to another story here, checking in on E-Town. So here we are coming back to the Commonwealth. E-Town police crediting new technology. It's helped them, they say, arrest and charge a man in a recent shooting. So what you're seeing is a bit of the scene video we're playing where this happened. Dedrick Jackson arrested around 3:30 yesterday morning because he fired a gun more than a dozen times at the Cherry Alley parking lot off North Main Street in E-Town. The shots and Jackson's license plate recorded on the flock camera, and at around 4 p.m., police say they found Jackson in a Target parking lot on Ring Road. He was arrested and is now charged with 2 counts of wanton endangerment. All right, approaching now 8:31 on this Monday night on August the 25th. We're going to reset to discuss more of today's big stories. One of those coming up, of course, the weekend wrapped up, and therefore so did the Kentucky State Fair. Another year of new memories with the tradition, and so we're going to show you a little bit of a glimpse at all the sweat, the work it took to break things down, hit the road, and then just clear the space for whatever else has to happen out there at the Kentucky Expo Center. So we're going to take a very brief break and be right back with more Wave Extra. Here we are, 8:33 on this Monday evening, checking out the gorgeous sunset from our SkyTrack camera, observing a bit of that, building skyline overlooking Paristown, and just love to see the colors, that mix of yellows and oranges with the blue just sitting there in the background. And look at those temperatures, by the way, something we're going to definitely discuss tonight on Wave News at 11 with Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned, just enjoying these much cooler evenings. I'm sure lots of you tuned in right now might be feeling the same way and just sort of wanting the days and the nights to last a little longer, if that means spending a little more a nice, pleasant time outside. I want to welcome you back here into the Wave Now studio. I'm Jose Sosaya. Update, by the way, too, since we get news in real time, just something for you folks. If there's anyone watching right now from Greene County or someone again, say family and friends out there in Greene County, so we're getting some updates here in our system, but in essence, I'll just read you what we've got from the Emergency Management Director in Greene County, strongly advising people in Summersville. So a heads up for you all in Summersville to be extremely cautious and aware. Apparently there's a large response by fire crews, EMS, because there's a large commercial fire where Murray's Auto is. So depending on where you are, just know that's where the location for fire crews and EMS are right now, and emergency management there as well. The emergency management in Greene County asking you to please avoid the area, let emergency crews come and go as they need to do their job and take care of the emergency as is there. Our staff trying to call in to see what we could find out, but we're hearing something along the lines of busy with a large field fire. And just given, it seems like all hands on deck, that was a very brief phone call. But as we hear anything coming up of this, let's see. And we're told it's not just a field fire. So I think at some point coming up soon, I'll try and hook up a picture we've got now to show you just how bad the situation is. So hopefully I can come back to that in just a bit. But in essence, now we move on to some other big stories for the day. And I promise we'll get back to this. Wrapping up from the weekend, which means wrapping up the Kentucky State Fair. It's over for the year, but there is always next year. And with that, it's time for everyone who set up their tents, the rides, the vendors, to put everything back in their trucks and their vans and move on to the next event. So Wave News reporter Kirsten Foote decided to give us a little look behind the scenes at what the process looks like.
It's hard to believe that the fair ended on Sunday night because on Monday morning, the area looks completely different as crews worked overnight and continue to work to tear down the 2025 Kentucky State Fair. By Monday morning, much of the sights and sounds of the fair were already packed away. Crews worked on this ride, disassembling it piece by piece with the help of carefully positioned workers and a crane. Fair organizers compare the setup to building a mini city that's now being taken down. Considering all the livestock shows, rides, and food stands that use more than 1 million square feet indoors and over 100 acres outside, organizers say taking down the event can be like a controlled chaos.
Early mornings through the nights, you'll see often the same people putting in the same kind of dedication they do year in, year out. Doing 300 events a year at both our properties kind of makes us familiar with what order things need to be done in.
Looking ahead to next year, organizers tell me the theme of the 2026 fair will have to do with highlighting America's 250th birthday. The theme will also pay homage to how the Commonwealth plays a role in shaping America. Before all that, there's no shortage of events going on out here. All This Takedown is getting ready for their next event, which is already on this Friday. It's the Kentucky Flea Market, and then shortly after that will be Bourbon and Beyond, which kicks off on Thursday, September 11th. Reporting in Louisville, Kirsten Foote, Wave News.
Certainly will be a lot of preparing there for Bourbon and Beyond. Again, so here's an update of an image we just got or sent to our staff here at Wave News of the fire that's out in Greene County. I'm going to double click to see here in Summersville. I'm just clicking back out there so you can take a look at that image. Smoke billowing. We're told this was around where Murray's Auto is in Summersville. Just a column of that dark smoke and plenty of fire. If you kind of see off to the side here, not sure if this front car in the foreground is necessarily a police car, but we could see ambulance and sort of those emergency sirens a little beyond this line in the background where the smoke is. So just we're told it's an active scene for fire that's a pretty large scale. So something we'll send you as many updates as we can get as we make those phone calls and try to find out what's going on. Just something we'll keep tabs here and, of course, discuss tonight on Wave News at 11. All right, time to discuss some more stories, as we heard from Kirsten in that regard, and also now look into the rest of the Commonwealth. And so here we're going to look. Workers, if you remember the story that we had checked in on Blue Oval SK, that manufacturing battery partner for Ford cars and those trucks. So the plant workers there are now voting on whether they're going to unionize and join the United Auto Workers. And we're going to show you an image of just sort of the last visits we've been able to make from inside the facility. Our last check is about 1,500 of around 5,000 jobs at this Glendale plant have been filled already. The UAW says Blue Oval SK is the only battery plant involving the big three automakers that right now is non-union. Workers have started casting their votes today. Votes are going to be counted. They're going to start being counted on Wednesday. So that is the latest as far as that story regarding Blue Oval SK and their plans to build those batteries for Ford cars. More stories for you tonight. This is part of our series of Watching Your Wallet, so discussing a lot of ways to manage your personal economy, your budget at home. Americans, though, this is something I think we all know somebody in our lives who likes to do this every time they go to the grocery store or stop by to grab something at the gas station to snack. It's that apparently the numbers show Americans spend more than $100 billion on lottery tickets each year. This is data that the Motley Fool reports having collected, but some advisors are now asking what that might be like for people who do like to play the lottery if they invested that money instead. So in today's edition of Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa is taking a look at the odds and what some experts and advisors might recommend instead.
50% of Americans play the lottery each year and spend about $103 billion in total. By comparison, the Motley Fool study found only 21% of families directly hold stocks. And when it comes to winning the lottery, well, the Powerball odds are 1 in 292 million. David Meyer, a senior analyst at the Motley Fool, says to him, playing the lottery is essentially lighting money on fire.
I'm not anti-lottery in that perspective, but I did not realize that the magnitude was that high. If you just put that in a savings account or money market account today that generated 5% return, that's a huge amount of money. That'd be $5 billion of interest a year.
Meyer says if you swapped out a Powerball ticket and a scratch-off ticket each month, about $25, and put that in a low-cost fund instead, with an average market return of 10% after 10 years, you would have $5,121. After 30 years, that small monthly habit would grow to more than $56,000.
Having it taken out of your paycheck and putting into a simple vehicle, again, it could just be a money market fund, could be a bond fund, could be the S&P 500 index. Whatever that thing is, if it's done for you, it makes the process easier.
Meyer says if your employer has a 401k plan, start there. He says, yes, it's fun to play the lottery and test your luck, but he says investing that money instead could lead to big returns. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
We're here at 8:42 as we do get those updates perhaps on what's going on in Somerville and also that boil water advisory for you folks. I'm going to double check where that location was in our chat. I believe that was the boil water advisory for you folks in Eminence, Kentucky. So two things that are happening right now. If we get any updates while we're here on the stream, make sure to let you all know what's going on. We are going to take a quick break right now to reset for some more stories to round out this edition tonight on Wave Extra. So hopefully stick around with us to discuss some of that. We will be right back after this pause. Hi, everyone. Appreciate you sticking around as we're just hitting 8:45. Jose Sosaya here at the Wave Now studio for tonight's Monday night edition of Wave Extra. If you jumped in to join us a little earlier, you saw sort of what it takes, all those hands and minds working together to break down the Kentucky State Fair, covering so much ground at the Expo Center, but they have to do that because there's more left on the calendar. Again, we look at the temperature gauges for outside. Thermometer letting us know it is quite a pleasant evening, kind of stepping closer and getting closer to fall, and that means some big events are planned less than a month out from when the fairgrounds are going to welcome those signature music festivals, one of them being, of course, Bourbon and Beyond. It's Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life. We're going to play back-to-back weekends in September. Both festivals, though, remember, moving from the Highland Festival grounds to the fairgrounds property this year. This is going to make some changes. If you normally know how to navigate the area, well, you're going to have to learn how to adapt or just account for some of these changes. Part of that being that traffic flow, accessibility to get in or out on Phillips Lane, that is going to change. The change, though, at least the event team says it's supposed to improve how the noise sort of travels for homes and businesses that are close by the fairgrounds. So trying to account to minimize sort of that loud, literally loud noise from the speakers, the crowd, and the music as it's permeating to the rest of the vicinity in the area there. So there is going to be a community meeting to discuss all these changes on Wednesday. We're told it's going to be at the Crown Plaza Hotel from 6 to 7. So you're apparently welcome to join and hear from the event organizing team and all those involved in making these changes, so you can have part in that discussion at the Crown Plaza Hotel from 6 to 7 this Wednesday night. As for changes in the layout of Bourbon and Beyond and Louder in Life, those two key festivals in September. Moving on to some stories, too, for anyone who's in the Louisville music or the art scene and loves to appreciate the orchestra. We've now learned the Louisville Orchestra's music director is going to continue in that role. He signed a 3-year contract extension. Teddy Abrams is his name. And you might be familiar if you've gone to see any of the performances they've done and Teddy's presence as part of the organization. So now Abrams is going to stay as director through the 2027 through 28 season. He came to Louisville around 12 years ago as the music director designate and took over the full role back in 2014-15. Abrams talking to us actually today. We'll probably play a little bit of his conversation with our Don G on Wave News at 11, but Teddy saying, quote, "Louisville and its orchestra have shaped my life in ways I could not imagine." So that is something that is having a little continuity as far as leadership and the expectation from Teddy Abrams, something for music fans, orchestra fans in Louisville that will continue for the next 3 years. And finally, we're going to round out with a story, just kind of an update on how other parts of the community are supporting the Louisville Male High School Marching Band because as the football field's being renovated, they don't have that opportunity to A, play out there on their home turf, but B, can't make the money they would normally generate from their concession sales. So if you remember last week, they said the show must go on even if we don't have our home stage, our football field to perform on. But the band is starting off the season, as they would describe it, on a high note. I want to show you, maybe we didn't get a chance to show you this from the week prior, but this is what was going on at the show. So as of today, we've learned the band has raised more than $1,000 from donations and concessions. This was the special performance Friday. The group can't get that much practice as it's normally used to in front of an audience. Those changes still got to happen to the football field, and the timeline, hopefully they can stick to that as far as the construction project goes. But there are links to donations to the pages they have and the dates they are performing on our website. It's a story that is on our website, and I'll see if I can bring us to the homepage as a reminder. That is a great tool for you all if you ever wanted to check in on what's going on at any given time of our day. Here we are at wave3.com. As we discussed at the top of the hour, a big story about the blasting operations along the Watterson expected to start tomorrow, and that's going to be a project with us for, at least in the midterm, a couple years' time, talking about our update on Churchill Downs and HISA's reports there. But the top headlines, all those resources, big stories happening across the country and here in your backyard, all right there for you to check in on wave3.com and the Wave News app and the Wave Weather Now app. just leave you all with a little more music. That's what that was, switching to that. Okay. All right. Coming up now on 850. By the way, if there's ever anything going on as far as stories, something you're concerned with, an issue, we also love to, add stories to our What's Good series, our initiative highlighting great things happening in your backyard, in your particular neighborhood. But please reach out to us with anything as far as stories that are going on and you want us to look into. You can email, call, all great tools to check in with all of us here on the Wave News staff and team. Hope you stick around tonight for more of these updates. If we get any more breaking news, it's going to be there on Wave News at 11. Checking in with the storm tracking team. Our reporter, Julia Richardson, hard at work as well with her investigations and stories for you tonight. So hopefully you do join us, and we do appreciate your time. I'm Jose Sosaya here in the Wave Now studio for tonight's Wave Extra. We'll see you tomorrow.